Ubisoft cannot seem to catch a break lately. After the devastating performance of Star Wars Outlaws, Ubisoft is doing whatever it takes to get customers back in the game, even going as far as to say, as PC Gamer put it, crawling back to Steam. Ubisoft has been running with Epic Games in what can be described as a loose arrangement or an open relationship since the release of Division back in 2019. My guess is that Epic Games didn't like Steam being the bull in the relationship, but understood that Ubisoft had a craving that occasionally had to be satiated, and the only person for the job seemed to be Gabe Newell. Gamers, rise up! The meme is real. Meme magic is real. Your voices are being heard, and nature is healing. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Leering Locust Gomi and Gold, where we sift through the Gomi in the gaming world to get to the gold. I'm Locust, lifelong gamer, the guy in the picture of your girl's locket, and newshound when it comes down to the culture war. Before we get into the corporate mess Sony and Ubisoft seem to be embroiled in, I would appreciate if you hit that like, that subscribe, and that ring on them bells for notifications. It helps the channel more than you could ever imagine. In a press release, Ubisoft announced that they are working on tweaking and polishing Star Wars Outlaws. They also announced the release of their first story pack DLC for free for customers of the game, where they will go head to head against the legendary Lando Calrissian. Will you be going back to Star Wars Outlaws after hearing this news? Did you even buy the game in the first place? Leave it down in the comments. The news for Ubisoft this week hits its second act. After months of critical reception to their upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows, Ubisoft pulled the plug on their showcase for the game at this year's Tokyo Game Show. Soon thereafter, Ubisoft put out an announcement informing customers that the game was going to be delayed till February, essentially stating that they would be working on polishing the game and would be refunding pre-orders, and those that still maintain their pre-order will be given the first expansion of the game for free. At The Game Gator on Twitter states, "This is like 9/11 for game journos, LMFAO." Do you feel as though that Ubisoft is turning over a new leaf or trying to combat their Ubislop moniker by actually working on polishing a game for once? Leave it down in the comments. And for the third and final act of the Ubisoft saga this week, remember Yves Guillemot, the guy that we talked about last week? Well, it looks like the Gamers Rise Up meme has got some legs behind it, because it would seem as though that they have heard your discontent for their products geared towards a quote-unquote modern audience. In a press statement that we are going to put up on the screen, Yves mentioned that their second quarter performance fell short of their expectations, having them feel as though that they have to respond swiftly and firmly. This essentially prompted an internal review to make sure the company improved their execution in a player-centric approach to improve the situation for stake and shareholders. Quoting, "I want to reaffirm that we are an entertainment-first company, creating games for the broadest possible audience, and our goal is not to push any specific agenda. We remain committed to creating games for fans and players that everyone can enjoy." End quote. Game market analyst Michael Pachter called this an incel victory, and FastCompany.com decided to run with that narrative. And I'm starting to think that these ad hom terms are starting to lose any sort of meaning. So, what do you guys think? Do you enjoy being called an incel for not accept... Do you enjoy being called an incel for not accepting this slop? Do you feel as though that Ubisoft is committed to turning the ship, or do you think that these are just empty platitudes to decoy gamers while they keep on sticking to quote-unquote the message? Let me know in the comments. But if you remember from last week's video, it wasn't just Yves Guillemot in the hot seat, it was Chinese company Tencent. The same Tencent who reportedly loaned Remedy, the developers behind Alan Wake, Max Payne, and Control, 15 million euros. As reported by InsiderGaming.com, the convertible loan agreement carries an 8% annual non-cash interest rate that will convert at 27.2 euros, which is $30.40 per share. The price will allow the loan to be converted up to 811,000 new Remedy shares. That represents roughly 5.98% of all shares in the company. Tencent currently owns 15% of Remedy. Remedy, along Ubisoft, have been scrutinized for hiring Sweet Baby Inc. for consultation, leading to poor sales in the released product. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but this is starting to feel like a racket. Let's get to Sony. Sony has been quietly raising the prices of remasters such as Horizon Zero Dawn by double. They also have been raising the price slightly on the DualSense controller. People are calling this a Concord tax. I guess that's one way to recoup a $400 million loss. Amidst Sony's state of play, the most notable reveal was the sequel to 2020's Ghost of Tsushima. According to @Okami13_, the game will feature a new protagonist, Atsu, and will be set 300 years after Ghost of Tsushima in the year 1603. The setting will be in a new region of Japan surrounding Mount Yotte, which is now modern-day Hokkaido, which in 1603 was outside of the rule of Japan. Visuals will contain massive sightlines, a new sky system, and even better wind movement on the grass. Mechanics and gameplay, as expected, will be tweaked and improved, and animals will still be a very important part of the game. It is also the first Sucker Punch game to be built from the ground up for PS5, which is a console it will be released exclusively on in 2025. The initial reception of this video was incredibly positive from all around the spectrum of gamers, even those that are fighters within the culture war. However, it did not take long before information came out about the game's main voice actress, Erika Nishi, who is also the face model and did the motion capture for the game, and to have her spicy political takes to be brought into daylight. It didn't take long before Nishi used a block bot, which takes certain accounts and blocks their followers, including yours truly.
Nice.
And I can't say that that is a solid business move. But Sony leaning into all of this comes as no surprise when they recently put out a job listing hiring a DEI specialist to, and I quote, join PlayStation Studios' DEI team. The person in this role will drive and own key elements of our global strategy and provide crucial program support. Lots of opportunities to collaborate with studios globally and drive impactful change across the business group. Star. It looks like the end product for this impactful change is running the gaming department of Sony into the motherfucking ground. In related news of wanting to burn things to the ground, a video from 2022 has surfaced with a Sweet Baby Inc. employee, Cameron Wild, stating that one of the goals of the consultation company, which has garnered tons of controversy in the last year or so for their alleged implementation and injection of social justice principles into many AAA games, is to, I quote, verbatim, burn the games industry to the ground, end quote.
Creative people or teams who want to tell a story, they don't have the identity, perspective, experience, or empathy to tell. And
what?
In a scene where the KKK are shown to be a crew of bumbling idiots, we get a feeling that Tarantino is almost there and capable of some genuinely good comedy. But even in reducing such an iconic avatar of racism to a bunch of fools, we're made to feel that racism itself feels silly to Tarantino. But he hasn't earned the right.
What? Tarantino hasn't earned the right to laugh.
That's a pretty bold statement, isn't it, Racer X? Amidst some wild quotes, one of them being,
I do think his work needs to be critiqued out of existence.
sounds like he wants to give Quentin Tarantino the gamer treatment. We are so oppressed. What could and should be noted is that in the past, Sweet Baby Inc. has denied these allegations of trying to quote-unquote diversify games. As explained in a Kotaku article, Sweet Baby Inc. is a narrative design company, meaning most of its work focused on writing, stories, and dialogue. They are not a DEI consultancy firm. That means they ensure a game's plot points make logical sense and are satisfying to players, and that characters speak and behave in consistent ways. Narrative designers may also provide a final round of polish like a Hollywood quote-unquote script doctor. However, Cameron in a bullet point on the slideshow said that he's here to quote-unquote stop people who are uncomfortable hearing that not every story is theirs to own, and then goes on to say, verbatim, to prove that space where whiteness doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told. End quote. Is it me, or if you stop beating around the word salad big enough to constitute as a bush, it sounds like these statements blatantly contradict each other? Am I wrong? Are we being gaslit? Let me know in the comments. Sweet Baby Inc.'s latest foray into the world of gaming doesn't seem to be doing so well. At Stuttering Craig on X, who had the scoop on Concord's physical sales doing abysmal, dropped some more intel on the numbers for Bandai Namco and Reflector Entertainment's collab with SBI, SBI being Sweet Baby Inc., for their game Unknown 9 Awakening. Out of 900 retailer stores, there have only been 42 pre-orders. That is 1/5 of the number for the mega flop Concord. To be fair, the budget for the game probably isn't 1/5 of Concord's, but as it stands, it seems as though Unknown 9 will be known as just unknown. Here's some more tea on the whole SBI ordeal. So get this, the New York Times tried pulling a fast one on the gaming community with a puff piece about Assassin's Creed Shadows, citing some supposed Japanese consultant to claim that it's all sunshine, rainbows, and roses in Japan as far as the reception for Assassin's Creed Shadows goes. But oh, here's a twist. The consultant, Kazuma Hashimoto, turns out to be a former employee of Sweet Baby Inc., the outfit known for steering the DEI pot in gaming. Ubisoft and the Times were spinning this narrative that it was only Westerners who were upset over Yasuke, the black samurai protagonist, while Japan was completely cool with it. But, lest we forget, only a few months ago, the Japanese government decided to stick their nose in the situation to smell out the Sweet Baby Inc. bullshit thanks to a politician named Satoshi Hamada. He's waving the flag of cultural appropriation, pointing fingers at Ubisoft for not just bending history, but snapping it over the knee with a depiction of Yasuke, the black samurai, and some architectural oopsie daisies that look more Chinese than Japanese. Ubisoft is trying to play nice, insisting it's all historical fiction, but Hamada's not buying it. The game's got Japanese players up in arms over cultural theft, with petitions flying around like ninja stars demanding Ubisoft rectifies their quote-unquote serious insult to Japanese culture. Hi. And to close the SBI chapter on this week, it looks as though Square Enix has soured on the Sweet Baby. Being that Square Enix was silently removed from SBI's client list. When asked about Sweet Baby Inc., Square Enix president Takeshi Kiryu said, "I would like to refrain from making specific comments about individual clients, as we shift from quantity to quality." It should be mentioned that it is highly speculated that SBI had a narrative influence on one of the biggest flops of 2022, Square Enix's Forspoken. Grum's, known for his work on the original World of Warcraft, speculates this might be a move to stealth the relationship. However, Sweet Baby Inc. has ruined the sales of every single game that they have touched, and it would be very wise to never hire them for your projects. So, what do you guys think? Are the dominoes tumbling towards doom for Sweet Baby Inc.? Do you feel as though that despite not getting the optimal results, Sweet Baby Inc. will continue to fail upwards? Let me know how you feel in the comments. The latest Dragon Age game, The Veilguard, is catching some flack, and quite frankly, a good chunk of it feels much ado about nothing. People are up in arms because in the character creator, you can pick your pronouns, slap on some top surgery scars, and go with non-binary as your gender. Now, in a realm where you can chug a potion to heal from a sword penetrating the gut, you'd think that there would be some sort of magical brew to tweak your bits without the knife, right? Align with your inner self without the surgery, right? Sure, scars have been part of the character kit for ages, but this kind of feels like they're singling out specifics for woke points. But honestly, I personally don't care and don't feel as though it's worth complaining about. In a character customizer, I would imagine it is universally agreed that the more customization, the better. And also, trans and non-binary people play video games as well. But here's kind of what makes me scratch my head. In that particular sphere, there's a whole debate on gender versus sex, and in the game, you're choosing gender, not your sex. Feels a bit disingenuous, doesn't it? Like they're kind of sweeping the biological stuff under the rug for a cleaner, more pristine narrative. It's a bit too tidy, a little convenient. The director of Dragon Age, The Veilguard, is quoted in saying, "As a queer woman, I have the perspective on games that not everybody has. Dragon Age has long been a place where LGBTQIA+ folks can see people like themselves, represented respectfully. It's inherently very queer." Another ex-employee, former writer for Dragon Age, David Gator, took to X to bash critics accusing Dragon Age, The Veilguard, of being woke, describing them as quote-unquote tourists. I can't say that I played any of these games, but in the little research that I did, the only thing queer that I came up on is the ability to romance people of whatever gender or sex that you wanted. However, that implies that the player is capable of heterosexual relationships. Does that make the game very hetero as well? Am I missing something? Enlighten me about the gayness of Dragon Age games in the comments, please. Another kind of funny news pertaining to the world of pronouns, indie game Main Quest is slaying Dragon Age in the pronoun customization field, to the point where Main Quest's game designer, Alice Rupert, who received scrutiny on Twitter for her social justice activism, threatened with every single comment she would add more pronouns to the game, including the ability to give your horse pronouns. Unfortunately, she was scared off Twitter when ridiculed for this concept. Guys, just let the girl make her silly horse game. If you had a horse, what pronouns would you give them? Mine would be nay, no. In other strange news, Chaya Rashik, otherwise known as Libs of TikTok, one of the most annoying accounts on X, decided to veer out of her lane and confront Blizzard on why the battle tag system doesn't allow players to use any tag that uses the word Trump, but allows tags that use Kamala. Not a fan of hers, but this can only be filed under peculiar. So here we are again, folks, with Sony doubling down on their PSN mandate for God of War Ragnarok on Steam, stirring up a storm that echoes the Helldivers 2 debacle. It's like they're playing a game of how much can we push before gamers push back. They got everyone from casual players to their hardcore fanbase up in arms, not just for the PSN requirement, but for what it represents. A corporate handshake you didn't ask for, right in the middle of your single-player saga. And for what? Security? Data farming? Or is it just to see how far they can stretch the leash before it snaps? Meanwhile, the game's drowning in a sea of mixed reviews, not because it's bad. No, it's as epic as ever. But because Sony's insistence on linking accounts is like throwing sand in the gears of a smooth gaming experience. It's like they've learned nothing from Helldivers 2, where the uproar over similar demands was loud enough to hear all the way in Asgard. But here we are with Sony standing firm, gamers grumbling, and the whole affair turning into a modern-day saga of corporate overreach versus player freedom. Rocksteady is apparently working on a new Batman game. This news comes hot off the saucepan of Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League's legendary flop, which was also made by Rocksteady. And Sony apparently wants to make it an exclusive. I go a little more in depth in the video that's coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. To sum it up, I really don't think this is a good idea for Sony. Korean developer Shift Up, known for its breakout game Stellar Blade, is being sued by Louisiana film company that goes by Stellar Blade. According to IGN, is alleging trademark infringement and is claiming that the business is being damaged by Shift Up's use of the name. I guess they didn't want their film company associated with Gooners, Giant Bazongas, and Rule 34. As a response, Shift Up updated the skirt physics in Stellar Blade, presumably so the film company could get a better view of the ass they can kiss. Okay, it's unrelated, but it made for a good segue. Now that we're done with Culture War Gomi, let's start making our way towards the gold. So, Shigeru Miyamoto, the wizard behind Mario and Zelda, just spilled the beans in a way that's pure Miyamoto in the opening of Nintendo's new museum in Kyoto. He's like, listen guys, we're not chasing the shiny new tech, diving into the AI craze everybody's pants are on fire about. Instead, he's all about keeping Nintendo's soul intact, focusing on creating experiences that resonate not just with games, but a whole universe where your kids and their grandkids can share in the wonder. Nintendo's not about specs wars, it's about crafting magic that everyone from a toddler to your grandma can enjoy. While the world is chasing the next big thing, Miyamoto's quietly saying, we're gonna do us and it's gonna be fun. And with that, he's not just preserving Nintendo's legacy, but expanding it into a grand entertainment tapestry, with theme parks, movies, you name it, all while keeping his hands in the dirt, crafting worlds where everybody's invited to play. Have you guys ever been locked out of a digital game that you've purchased? Well, I have. If you have, in that case, if you don't know, that's because you don't actually own the games. You're borrowing a license. Well, if you live in California, there's some good news, and I've got to give credit where credit is due. Gavin Newsom, who I am certainly not a fan of, has signed a bill into law that will force storefronts to admit that you don't actually own your digitally purchased games, films, and TV shows, you're just licensing them. I can think of a 3-letter acronym that solves a lot of this issue, but many of you aren't ready to have that conversation yet. And anyways, I'm not foretelling. The Sign of Balance is returning for a remaster. Yep, you heard that right, Soul Reaver fans. You finally get the first 2 games with remastered visuals, bringing the game to modern standards. And the original graphics option that will take you back, depending on which game you choose, to 1999 or 2001, a new control scheme, a brand new, never-seen-before map of Nosgoth that was co-created by Aspyr, Crystal Dynamics, and the Legacy of Kain community, a photo mode, and a multi-platform release available on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Well, it seems as though Hideaki Itsuno is leaving Capcom with a bang, bang, bang! Unfortunately, the words "pull my devil trigger" do not follow those bangs. Only my cries. But Dragon's Dogma 2 has won the award for excellence at the Japan Game Awards 2024. I made a whole video of Itsuno's departure and the potential implications of it. It was actually the first video that I put out. If you're curious, I linked it up in the cards. We're more than happy to congratulate Itsuno-sama on the end of this chapter of this legendary career, so arigatou gozaimashita. As we mentioned, Tokyo Game Show is well on its way. One of the trailers shown during the conference was Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. And wow, the game looks really good, at least from a visual standpoint. Also, you ever feel as though that you kind of need to take a piss in between those incredibly long cutscenes in the previous games? Well, now you can finally pause in the middle of a cutscene. Thank God. By the time this video is released, we may have even started streaming Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater to prep for Delta. And we might even make it the October Platinum Trophy for our 12 months 12 Platinum Trophies challenge that is going down in my Twitch channel. Link in the description. Are you going to be playing a Metal Gear Solid game without the influence of Hideo Kojima? Let me know in the comments. In other Kojima news, Kojima has announced that his new game, OD, is quote-unquote very risky and very hard to explain. So we're not even going to bother explaining it on this channel.
What's that mean? Very risky.
In other absurd news, I guess we're about to witness the craziest crossover of all video game history that most certainly was not on your 2024 bingo card. Famous footballer, or if you are in the stateside like me, soccer player Cristiano Ronaldo announced on Twitter some sort of cryptic collaboration between him and Fatal Fury. Is he going to be a playable character aside Mai and Terry Bogard? Guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to theorize that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia that bought over 51% of the shares of SNK, making him the dominant shareholder of the company, who apparently is also a super fan of SNK, might also be a fan of Ronaldo and soccer and just wanted to see his two favorite things in the world mesh together. But that's just my crackpot theory. What news makes you feel sexy? What news makes you feel weak? And which news is absolute peak? Let me know in the comments and give this video a like because I'm so likable, a sub because I'm a dom. That would be so nice. And oh yeah, while you're at it, just ring those bells. Bye bye.